time for another tea break. This time, my mug says I'm barking mad. Can't argue with that. I've got two people on the line who are going to talk about a specific issue, property and investment. They're interesting fellas. One's Mark Walton from Walton Robinson, who's based in Newcastle, and Ben Quentrell from My Property Box, which is a relatively new business to the market, and it's based in Tees Valley in Darlington. Hello, have you got your tea? Have you been ready for our tea break? Oh, great.
Thanks, Graham, yes.
Thank you very much. You're premature. You got Santa tea break there.
Secret Santa, yeah. Secret Santa mug, that one.
Great. And by the way, I do like the set behind you, Mark. It looks very ornate and very, I suppose, Victorian or Edwardian. What's the history of the building?
Yeah, it's Victorian, late 1800s. It's the Bruce Building, which is in the centre of Newcastle. And we bought that building back in 2015, so we refurbished it, and there's a listed part to it, and that's where I'm currently at.
Great. What was it used before? Who was previous owners?
Yeah, it was originally built by the Newcastle Brewery, so they ran their offices here. There's bottle banks in the basement, and there's lots of ornate bits and pieces. And then it was taken over by the university, bought by the university back in 1960. We bought it in 2015 from them.
Is it full now, or are you tenanting it with others, or is it just you?
We did on the upper floors. We did apartments, so there's 57 apartments up there, and we did serviced offices in the listed end, so we could retain all the features. And we have a retail parade, which has a restaurant in there, a pub, and we operate our lettings and sales from the corner site.
Sounds real mixed use. What do you think of that, Ben?
Sounds amazing. Could use one of them.
Your office looks flash and modern, but actually it's got a bit of history as well, hasn't it?
Yes, Graham. Ours is it's a club from the 60s in Darlington called La Bamba. It was before my time. I'm not sure whether you remember it, but
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's got to be a history. There's a few famous people played here: Shirley Bassey, Tom Jones, and it was a big fire in 1968, which it burnt down, and it was refurbished into offices. And then we bought the building about 2 years ago, and refurbed it.
Now let's talk about property in a different way. You both operate property letting businesses, but you operate them in slightly different markets. Ben, yours is more for residential property for private landlords, and you look after houses and residential properties where you rent them out to tenants, and you look after them. And I know my late father's house was rented out by you, and it was a very efficient operation, all online. You can check it up, so I can verify that. But in Newcastle, you, Mark, have a slightly different approach. As well as doing residential, you do HMOs for students. So let's start with you, Mark, and tell us about the kind of proposition you offer to people who might buy properties and to the tenants. What kind of business are you running?
Yeah, on that side of the business, it's buying properties that are in a specific location close to either Northumbria and Newcastle universities. We're very lucky in that both of those universities are close to the city centre. So students will rent virtually any type of property or any size of property, from a one-bed, either one person or a couple, going right the way up to, we have some 9 beds. So it's a vast array of different types of students coming to us. There's 45,000 Newcastle, and we can help the purchase the property, refurbish it, and prepare it in the best way possible for the students, and then obviously get it let and manage it through the actual process.
And I know that obviously potential investors will consider, well, what's likely to happen with students with this COVID-19 pandemic? What has happened where you are to your properties?
We do some consensus stuff with this, because obviously being our clients, we have to know what would like, and very, very strongly they would like to be being taught in university and not online. So I think in the short term it's definitely going to go that way. We've all been reading in the press about what's going to happen in the lead up to Christmas. Obviously, there's a light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccination news, but that is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a period of time that we've got to go through. But I think all the students, whether they're in the first, second, third, or the fourth or fifth years, are all hoping that it's as short term as possible and that they can get back to studying at university. When you leave home, when I say we've all been there, you've left university or you haven't been at university, whatever happens when you're with your parents, you're looking forward to getting away and forging your life and your friends and your scenario. And being stuck at home having to do the study online is not what the student experience is about.
And are there investors still around to buy properties in the expectation that students would come back next year?
Yeah, I mean, we're inundated at the moment. There's a sort of a little bit of a perfect storm. Stamp duty changes, but then in addition to that, you've got low interest rates, and what's in effect happening is there's a bit of a capital uplift in terms of the value of the properties.
We'll pause there and move over to Ben.
Yep.
Ben, you've heard about the HMO stuff. We can pick up on some of that stuff with Mark again in a moment. But you are doing a more traditional property rental. And a couple of weeks ago, I was helping a relative of mine who was buying their first home in Stockton. And she wanted to buy a home that was relatively cheap, £60,000. And there were 15 people queuing up, and many of them were buy-to-let investors. And she was almost crowded out. She got the house in the end, but she was almost crowded out. Are you inundated with people wishing to invest?
Yeah, like Mark said then, the investor market at the moment is crazy. Yeah, we do a lot of deal packaging and sourcing for investors, not on Mark's level, more like on single lets. We do HMOs, but on the smaller units, professionals in Darlington. We manage a few small blocks in Middlesbrough. But yeah, like Mark says, the investors at the moment, honestly, are just gobbling up every bargain, every good buy on the property. So it's not surprising, you had 15 on that 16k property at the moment. But demand at the moment, Graham, is lettings-wise. It has actually last week, just since the second lockdown, just slowed down a little bit, but it's been absolutely, anyone in property you speak to, absolutely nuts busy.
And Ben, unlike Mark, you are not looking for HMO properties and student market, you're conventional lettings. Are the tenants there? Is the feedstock of tenants there for people investing?
Yeah, the demand's crazy, as I say. You put like a nice 3-bedroom, ex-council, semi-detached with a garden on the market, in September or last month. And, you've got, as you say, 10, 15 people fighting over it, wanting to let it, which has actually caused increase in rents as well. So your 500s have been getting 550, your 550s have been getting 600. It's been a bit like that, really. A lot of the staff in the office, let's try a bit more, let's try this, and the letting. So, yeah, it's busy, demand's high.
What about protecting rents? Obviously, the government isn't allowing, and understandably in the pandemic, anyone to be evicted. How are you making sure that people don't take advantage and do actually pay their rent?
Yeah, so we've just partnered up with an insurance company for all our fully managed stock. So there's quite a few on the market. For listeners that are watching this now, they'll know the main 4 or 5 that are out there. One of them we've just done a deal with, a lot of letting agents have, and basically we're doing rent guarantee for all our fully managed properties. This insurance company will do interim tenancy, so obviously halfway through the tenancy, and they will accept housing benefit. As long as there's certain stipulations, of course, tenants can't have been 10 days arrears or more, certain guarantors in place, etc. But we've put a lot of our fully managed landlords on this. And roughly speaking, for your average property where we are, £450 per calendar month, it's costing about £20 a month policy to guarantee your rent. So it's pretty much a good deal, and it's a month-to-month basis as well. So, after COVID, 3-6 months, you can cancel it. There's no tie-ins. It's a pretty good deal, really. And obviously it covers your legal costs and eviction costs as well.
Okay.
Although the bailiff rules have just been changed last week, but yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to leave the last word to Mark. We're running out of time. Mark, with students and HMO properties, the guarantee of rent is slightly different. You don't necessarily go the insurance route, do you?
No, I mean, the insurance route, it has its positive sides, but luckily we think that's outweighed by the lack of risk that we have on the student side. The reason for that is, for example, if you have a 5-bed, you have 5 tenants that are joint and severally liable. So they're all guaranteeing each other, and then in addition to that, you have a parent that guarantees the child or the young adult. So and they're all joint and severally liable. So you have 10 people guaranteeing that rent, and that's the whole rent, not just one person's. So to then ask the landlord to take an insurance on that, whilst it does have its positives in a situation where you might find some arrears creeping in, especially in the circumstances we're in now, for example, we can't justifiably sell it to the landlords because I don't think it's needed.
Okay, well, look, thanks for taking your tea break with me, and we'll have another tea break chat soon.